Well, good morning.
Morning.
Glad to have both of you with us this morning. John Rodriguez, iFinance Mortgage, our weekly podcast. And today, privileged to have Daniel Katzman and Ian White from our Mission Viejo Chamber of Commerce, both financial advisors. And it's a pleasure to have both of you.
Thanks for having us. Good to be here.
Well, to get to know your selves better and really specifically a niche that you have created within the chamber, the Young Professionals Group. So exciting. And we know there will be other young professionals that will be watching this video. Hopefully we'll inspire them to maybe join a networking group, maybe even ours, but something that will help stimulate their business too. So, well, maybe I'd like to ask both of you, how did you get into the financial services realm? Kind of what led you down that path? Dan?
I was going to school for agricultural business, and I was in my senior year, first semester. I went to go double check with the advisor to make sure I was going to graduate. My dad would not book his tickets to come to graduation without verification. I found out I was an agricultural business finance major with a minor in business administration, and then I realized I'm in all these finance classes and all we're talking about is stocks, bonds, CDs, everything, and I'm like, And I was just falling in love with it. I started a Robinhood account. I started day trading on it, Robinhood isn't real, just letting you know. But yeah, started messing around on there. It was super fun and fell in love with it and started applying to everywhere. And I applied to firms from Rhode Island to New Mexico and here and everywhere. And they let me come home and be around family. And so came running home and been enjoying it ever since.
That's amazing. How about you, Ian?
Well, for me, I always liked finance, even when I didn't understand that term. From when I was 6 years old, making $1 a week allowance.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really care about the spending of it, but I wanted to know what it would become. So I'd calculate, how many weeks in a year. Like, okay, I'm gonna get $52 this month. That's crazy. What about over the next 10 years? And I just kept doing stuff like that as I got older. But I think our educational system is pretty lacking. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what a financial advisor was. My family's lower middle class. They didn't invest. And even in college, I chose a finance degree and an economics degree, but it was corporate finance. Mm-hmm. They didn't teach about financial planning, dealing with individual people. And so I liked the material, but I didn't really like the idea of just going to work for some big corporation and make them a little bit more money. But that's what I'd signed up for. Senior year of college runs around. I start just applying for any job I can. And the first thing that comes up is financial advisor, which that would have been nice to know ahead of time. So I started applying, got an interview with Edward Jones, and they spent the entire time talking about my volunteer work, which was that kind of allowed me to interview them. Mm-hmm. And right. After that, obviously, I had no control, but I was really hoping they'd pick me. And they did, and it's history from there.
Wow, that's amazing. So at a very young age, you had that vision. I can remember, back in the days of the Flintstones, when I was young, very similar. I would look for ways to make money, but then I would look for ways to compound it. Okay, I made this, now how do I make that? And I remember one time, I grew up in Torrance, Redondo Beach area, and in the back of our place, we had this little gully, and they had rocks. So I would go down there, I'm 4 years old, 5 years old, picking up these rocks, bringing them back to the house, and I'd shine them up, and I'd paint them. My dad had paint there, I was paint them. And then I would sell them to people for a quarter. People would buy them. I said, what's your name? I'll put your name on it. I put their name on it, and I'd sell them for a quarter. My dad's like, you're selling rocks? I go, yeah, I want to sell more.
Why not?
I just kept going down, getting more rocks. That eventually led to lemonade stands. And when we moved to Washington State, we lived across from these huge blackberry bushes, tons
yep.
of.
So
And
did I.
blackberries were like that big. They're juicy and just huge. And I'd pick them, and I'd take them down to the soccer fields right down below us, sell $100, $200 worth of stuff at age 8. My dad's like, maybe I should join him. I'm in the wrong business, you know? So it does. It starts at a young age.
That's
you
rad.
know? Yeah, it's pretty cool, you know?
Where are you selling these rocks?
You know
get in the
what?
rock
I don't know
business.
if anybody still has those things from 50 years ago, but I think it was more like, let's help this kid out. You know, like you see a little lemonade stand on the corner.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Take advantage of your cuteness.
Yeah, exactly.
And to pay
boy.
$3 for a little spit of lemonade. Yeah.
Right? And thank you. And forget Girl Scout cookies. Here, just open my wallet. Take what you want.
I have to go out the Alps. I go out the inn.
You see you sneaking out.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned something, Ian, about volunteering and how that sparks an interest in potential employers and other people. Let's talk about that for a moment. When it comes to volunteerism and community, why do you feel that is so important as businessmen, business people? Why is that so important to get involved in your community and volunteer?
Ian, you want to go first on this one?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the philanthropic reason of wanting to help others, and that feels good. But setting that aside, because we've heard about that over and over again, you're building a network of people that are seeing you doing something you're passionate about, which is helping people, and they might want to use your business. The most important thing, though, for business is that's how you get experience. And all these kids graduating now, and it was the same when I graduated, all these entry-level jobs had experience requirements. And people are like, how in the heck am I going to get experience when you're supposed to be my first job?
That's right.
It's the volunteering.
Yep.
Right? Because you start out as you're just helping package the meals. And then all of a sudden they realize, oh, we need help over here. You immediately shift to do that. And by the end of the day, you're on the board.
Yeah.
Because they need people. And, most people that are deep into their career don't have time.
That's right.
They've got a business, they've got family. And so a lot of these boards, they need help desperately, and they're willing to accept someone without experience and help train them. And that's kind of where young professionals comes in, is that's such a simple piece of advice. It takes a minute to talk about, and it can change your entire life, but we're not saying it to these young people. And I kind of just did it in college. I was broke, and there were scholarships where if you volunteered, you'd get about $3 an hour, essentially. And so I do these 300, 600 hours, and then get that money to pay for school. And then that's what Edward Jones latched onto.
Interesting.
And that's why I got the job.
Wow. So that was instrumental in your career, the volunteerism and the community. And how about for you, Danny? What are your thoughts on?
It's a mandatory aspect of life. You got to do your stewardship duty to your fellow man. Like, it's like being on a boat. Like, do your job or get off the boat, and I think we're all on the same planet. We're all on the same rock together. So you kind of owe it to your fellow community members. You're either causing harm or helping. You're either aware of how much, you're using, kind of thing. I'm not trying to be some hippie dude over here or whatever. But it's, honestly, like, the stewardship prayer or whatever, if you're religious, like, you got to do your duty to your fellow man and, respect your community and things like that. So, I wasn't always this way, but, high school graduation requirements are volunteering.
Yeah.
And, you learn a little bit in there, like, oh, this isn't just for the credit. This is, you're trying to help people and all that stuff. You're not really getting it at that young age, but, graduating college, becoming a little bit older, a little wiser at 24 years old, wise man here. I'm starting to understand my duty and my obligation in my community as a person in it.
That's important. What both of you said is understanding, your obligation, your privilege. And I believe our chamber CEO, Doug, he did a study on people that are looking to do business with others. When they know that you're part, especially we'll take, for example, the Chamber of Commerce, if they know you're part of your local chamber of commerce, or perhaps, a couple of them in the community, they are more likely to do business with you. And I think the percentage was nationwide at the time. This is probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, the study, but I think it was like 75% really say, oh, they're already part of an organization that gives back to the community, looks to volunteer. That's who I want to do business with. So it really does. It pays in dividends that way as well.
Absolutely does. The more you do it too, the more you understand, like, oh, you're part of your community. You're not going to go to Dunkin' Donuts anymore. You're going to go to, what's our local donut shop called? There's a couple, right? You go to the little ones, the ones that you don't even read the sign anymore because you know the lady at the front desk, right? Like, or the front counter, and it's it's more important to work with those people. And you talked about corporate finance and stuff. Mind you would have done phenomenal. You would have cut the crap out of a bottom line. That would have been phenomenal. But I'm glad you did what you did, gone into personal finance. And it's a matter of like just being inside your community and working with your community, and it's important. It's so important. Local business owners are like, it's the bread and butter of everybody else's business. You help each other instead of going into these corporate spaces of the Walmarts and stuff, putting mom and pops out of business all across America. Like, are you either going to work for the man or become the man? And so I don't know.
Yeah, no, those are thoughts well said. And speaking of your personal volunteerism within the Chamber of Commerce, maybe you can speak to how long you've been working with the Chamber of Commerce, and so what some of your volunteer duties have been and up to present.
Yeah, Ian, talk about young professionals. Plug our podcast. We got a podcast,
there you
Young
go.
Professionals Podcast.
Let's hear about it.
Let's hear about it. Mission Viejo Chambers YouTube, easy to look up. But yeah, what else are we like? We're doing a lot of stuff with young professionals.
Yeah, so I've been a part of the chamber for I think 5 or 6 years now. I used COVID as a placemat because I joined right before then, and I always wanted to get more involved because that's how you get more center focus. Right. When you're volunteering, people see you. Like you said, when people see that you're active in the chamber, active is the key word. You can't just sign up and then never show up to anything.
Hear that?
And so, yeah, when the chance to start the Young Professionals came about, it wasn't our idea. There's plenty of chapters around the country, but the main focus is how do we help the next generation do better in a world that increasingly doesn't care about them. It used to be that you join a company, you're part of their family, they take care of you, and then you retire.
Yeah.
Now people have maybe 7 careers in their life. You're more likely to get laid off the more money you're making, say goodbye to the pensions. And so how do we take care of ourselves? But there's not a lot of help for those kids. Like telling them to do the volunteer work and get on a board. By the time they're hearing about that, it's too late. And so our job is to try to get in front of people at the right time. Some of that's in high school and college. So, we're going into classrooms to help people with stuff as simple as budgeting for success. If you don't have the time to look for the right job, then you're not going to find it. And so how do you set that up? But it's also about you're already working, but you're new. Maybe you have imposter syndrome. Maybe you feel bad that you're considering switching jobs, and you need somebody in that industry to tell you, if you're in tech, your salary might increase about 3% a year with inflation if you stay. But most tech people will leave every 2 to 3 years and get a 10 to 20% increase. So how are you going to proceed with your business? With tech, you got to be willing to move.
That's right.
California, Washington, Georgia, places where the businesses are. In finance, it's different. You've got to find a home and then stay there forever. Because personal finance, because it's very hard to take your clients with you, and so you need to find a home and stay there. And every industry is a little different, and so the goal is to just educate people on what's going to work for them without making them just figure it out themselves. And then when they fail, point and laugh.
Yeah, it's very true. You think about what both of you have done as we've watched you take the lead and take charge of the young professionals group. You've gone into high schools. I know you're working with others that are helping these students to get careers, like you mentioned. And, those things didn't exist when I was in school. Maybe they barely existed when you're in school. They still don't really exist in school. Mm-hmm. And here, our Chamber of Commerce, specifically the Young Professionals Group, has really tasks themselves as a group, as a committee, to go reach out to these ones, to educate them, to help them, to show that they can be like you. They can have a solid career, whether it's finance, whatever they choose to do. But the fact that, and kudos to both of you and the rest of your team that are taking your time, volunteering, and going out and educating and showing them that there's a real bright future.
Kudos to you, man. We learned it from you. You were my ambassador at the chamber start. I learned it all from you. I just cheated.
That's not cheating. That's mentorship.
Yeah, whatever. Taking good ideas and just using them. Run with them. For real. You started it off being my ambassador.
Thank you for that. And that's something that we, as a chamber, I think we've done pretty well at. Obviously, we can always do better. But when it comes to the various committees, ambassador committee, both of you have served, are serving on that. And now as board members, giving back. And I know when I first joined the board, I was one of the younger ones on the board at my age. But, we started talking. We realized we're going to age out, We need a group of young professionals to come in, join the board of directors, help us understand, wait a minute, there's a whole group of people we're not reaching out to and appealing to. They are the future. You are the future. And so it's been just a welcome blessing to have both of you as equals and partners, on the board. So thank you very much. And that goes out to anyone that may be listening to this. If you want to volunteer, do exactly what they mentioned. Get involved in a local organization. A Chamber of Commerce is a really good opportunity. There's a lot of other organizations too.
Mission Viejo Activities Committee, if you're in Mission Viejo, it's phenomenal. City run. I don't know if it's city run. It's part of the city. Mm-hmm. They do all the city events. Always looking for volunteers there. When I was a kid, I did South County Safe Rides. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore or still a thing. Yeah. But yeah, just any sort of volunteering you can do is phenomenal. You got to do it for your community. That's what I think personally. And then Ian's side of things, it's a great business networking opportunity. Instead of messing around with your friends doing dumb stuff, being a shenanigan against the community. Exactly. Well, yeah, that might have been you. I don't know. Maybe you and Ian went out hanging out, but that wasn't. No, you could either go cause a ruckus, or you can really, take. I don't know how you feel as being a young individual coming up. Ian, maybe both. The world may not be going in the right direction. I don't know how you feel. The world's kind of, you asked any advisor at the beginning of Q1 last year, they would have said there's a definite recession happening at the end of Q4, right at the end of this year. Didn't happen. Mm-hmm. Now we're sitting up here, the S&P 500's at 20x P&E ratio, and its 30-year average is 16. Is that overvalued? What does that mean? And what is the likelihood of it continuing to go up? Right?
Yeah.
And, the likelihood of it going down, much greater. Mm-hmm. So, how are you supposed to keep a bright outlook as a young individual is by getting involved, at the ground root, going into your city council or whatever. Go to a city council meeting. Most boring thing you'll ever see, but just go. Learn about your community a little bit, learn what's going on, try to get involved, try to do something.
That's an interesting point, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, putting it a slightly different way, a lot of millennials are in the stage of life where they should have bought a house by now, but they haven't because it's impossible. And a lot of people can't understand why they're not doing it. And of course, you just do the math. You're like, oh yeah, you have to have double the income you have and a lot more savings, which is going towards rent and everything else right now. And so they think, well, I'm never going to be able to succeed, so I might as well not even try. But the key to success is, there's a few things, but one of them is always inching towards daylight, right? You're in the mud, there's darkness everywhere, but you just keep moving forward inch by inch, and eventually, that's how people get lucky, right? You work your butt off for years, take advantage of every opportunity, even though they don't look like opportunities at the time. And eventually, it's like the stars align, things come together, and you're ready to grab it.
You know how you spell luck?
How?
W-O-R-K.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so people who succeed are seen at that pinnacle moment, and everyone else is like, oh yeah, they just got lucky. Like, yeah, I was super lucky working my butt off for 10 years. You guys were out partying, I was working. You were nursing your hangover, I was in the office on Saturday morning. But yeah, I just got lucky.
That's both of you, just your comments of how you chose to take a different path. We all have colleagues or friends we grew up with that went this way, whether it's the partying, the whatever, didn't put in the work. Maybe they did fall into something later, but we still see grown adults that don't really have much skills. They don't have much to offer their communities.
Yep.
Now they're family people. What kind of a role model are they?
Meandering through life.
Yeah.
And the worst part is they're pretending it's out of their control, which is why when you're doing work, they kind of are like condescending.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like, why do you work so much? Like, it's not even a...
That's why don't say impossible when they're talking about buying homes, man. We're advisors. Be nice.
Well,
it's possible.
It's the perception.
It is.
So,
yeah.
But people are going to look down on you for doing hard work, because if they were to admit that it works, they'd have to apply that to themselves.
Yeah, they got to do it.
Right.
That's right.
That's too hard.
It sure is. And that's, you mentioned the perception and what people think and feel. Most of our high school kids, they don't even know what S&P means, right? So they don't, in some cases, they don't even know to be alarmed. They don't even know. They see things on the news. Oh, they turn it. I don't want to watch the news because I don't understand it.
And it's all politics now. It's not anything else.
Yep.
So we went to a career fair, and there were tons of people. A lot of these events that we go to, like nobody comes to your table. You're thinking, oh, I'm going to get a lot of business here, and then nothing. This table was nonstop backed up.
Wow.
And it was all people asking, what is it that you do? Because nobody knew what a financial advisor was at all. And they were very interested, but the knowledge or the information wasn't available to them before.
Man, so when was this? Was this recent?
Yes, it was in March.
Yeah, it was a little
March.
rainy still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It just happened. And it's a shame that it took till senior year of college for both of us to realize this was an opportunity. Like, this was a real career path.
Exactly.
How did it take till senior year? I went to a top 50 Catholic preparatory school in the country. Nothing. I was kind of messing about a little bit, but, and then I would go to college and then, also messing about. But get to senior year, straighten up, fly right, and then it's not till, like, late second semester when the advisors came and spoke to my class that I was like, I raised my hand. I said, so, like, what did you learn at LSU that you use on a daily basis? And they said, absolutely
Not
nothing.
much.
You're going to learn everything you need to know on the job.
Yeah.
And I said, I can do that.
So then you learn how to pass the test. That's it.
Yeah. Right. That's right. So let me ask you this. This part of this podcast also encompasses the mindset of a champion. And from my perspective, I see both of you as champions. You're champions in your fields as financial advisors, as a husband, as a father for you, Ian, and for you, Danny, caring for your family. You're all about family. I've heard you talk about that many, many times. And so you're a champion. But I'd like to hear from you, what kind of a mindset, when you wake up in the morning, we've heard that term, know what your why is. maybe talk about that just briefly as to what your mindset is to be a champion in whatever you decide to do.
I'll tell you when I get there. You start.
Yeah, I think there's two things. The first, and not quite as important but still important one, is to be comfortable looking like you don't know what you're doing. Because there's so many times where people have questions and they need the answer to become successful, but they don't want to look stupid, and so they don't ask. When in reality, nobody expects you to know the answer. You're new, right? And even if you are expected to know, asking makes you look dumb for a day, but then you become an expert, and now you look great forever. But I mean, that's why people don't take up new hobbies, because they're gonna suck at it for a while, for quite a while. But then they get good and they enjoy doing what they're doing. The key though is discipline. If what I was asking these high school kids, because they asked me the same question, and I'd ask them a question back. I said, do you feel like you get more done when you're feeling motivated? Like, oh yeah, of course. Like, that's the problem. You need to be disciplined so that no matter how you feel, you're getting your work done. Because I don't want to let my emotions control my future success. I'm having a bad day, I'm feeling tired, hungry, whatever, and I'm like, oh, I just don't really feel like working today. Tough. Here's the tasks you need to complete, do them. And it doesn't even feel good after, because I'm still having a bad day. But next week, right, when it pays off, I feel blessed that I actually stuck to what I wanted to do. But that's really hard, is controlling yourself. But I mean, you can be successful in almost anything if you just do that. You don't have to be smart, you don't have to be anything else, you just need to be disciplined enough to do the work.
I would say you don't have to be special, but yes.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. Ultimately, that's great advice. Be dumb. It's Jordan Peterson. He's got a great quote about his daughter going into like these, high level exec meetings and stuff, and she just asks stupid questions. And that's a harsh way of putting it, but it's ask the question. If you don't understand, ask.
Right.
Because then you're going to understand.
No dumb question type thing. Yeah.
People get annoyed at me in class. Even when I was training at Edward Jones, I would ask so many questions, and the other students would be like, "Oh, well, Ian, like you're taking up time." And meanwhile, there were 30 people in that class. There are 6 left, and I'm one of them. It's like, I want to know in case this happens to me. And it does. It comes up, and I know the answer, and I look like a genius. But in reality, it's just preparation.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And, I think about mindset. When I wake up each day, I know my priorities are my wife, my extended family, my parents, her parents. After that, whatever bandwidth I have left, I give to the community, friends, that kind of thing. But it does, to your point, Ian, it takes a mindset of discipline. Control your controllables. There's things you can't control, but I can control me.
You control how you react.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a big factor to be successful or to be a champion in whatever we do. It starts with that daily mindset, but mine starts the night before. I have to, I'm kind of like that fireman. I've got all my clothes set up and I just jump down the pole and dress and go out the door. But that starts the night before. I need to coordinate things. I need to plan. I know what I'm doing the next day. And, my mindset is, I wake up every morning, I'm ready to go. I'm a morning person, but not everybody's like that. So, but that's important. It's important. And as role models, each of you are role models for, in your various lives. How important is setting the right example to you?
It's crucial. It's when you're a member in the community and you're going to be doing stuff, people are also going to do it. Like, that's what I mean when it's like you have a duty and obligation to your fellow man, and you're either helping or hurting the community. Like, if you're not aware of, your actions, and if I walk through this field, can 100 other people walk through this field behind me kind of deal? Like, is all the flowers going to be dead after everyone walks through this kind of deal? You have to understand, like, what my actions are. Like, when I think about it, it's like everything I do, if a million other people can't do the same kind of thing, probably not the right thing to do. Kind of, you gotta be aware of, there's people following you, there's people watching you. Like I have an intern, he's full IB, way smarter than I was in high school, and it's like he's trying to pursue it, and I'm trying to prosper that, and it's he's gonna look at me to, hey, what is this dude doing? How does he behave at work? How does he act? And I take that with great responsibility. My sister's gonna go be a doctor, so I gave up on being a role model for her for a long time ago. She's got it down. She doesn't need no role model, but yeah, it's very important. I've been an older brother too my whole life, so I understand the importance of people are watching you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're an older brother too.
Yeah, the oldest.
Oldest, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really twofold. You mentioned that family was your top priority, which I think is essential, and all you people listening need to understand that. Work is not top. Yeah. It's second, maybe. So your family always comes first, but a lot of us put the hours in because we're like, oh, we need to work to be successful for our family. But then we realize, oh, we were never there. Our kids don't even know us. And now it's too late because they're grown. Like family comes first. So my role, I'm the role model for my kids. They don't care that I, signed a big client, right? What they care about is the ethics, because they do understand that, right? Is dad walking by somebody who needs help? Or is he throwing trash on the ground? Something as simple as that. Like they see and hear everything. If I get a call, how am I talking to that person? When somebody's yelling at me, how do I handle that stress?
That's right.
Because if you freak out in public, that's weakness. Right? You shouldn't let people rattle you like that, and your kids are going to see everything. But then when it comes to the professional world, and I see all these young people following, to push the country forward, we let other people's perceptions affect us way too much. And so for them, I try to show them that it's okay to be yourself, right? I don't care what people think as long as I feel like I'm doing the right thing. Just a kind of a silly example is I sold a car a couple of years ago. We got one family car. Every Thursday I have a networking group that I can't get to because the kids have to go to school. So I Uber. Most people, and this is silly when you put it on paper, are going to buy another car, pay the monthly insurance, the 30 grand for the car, the gas, and they say, oh, I need it. But I'm a financial advisor. Let's do the math, right? How much does it cost to get the Uber? And it makes so much sense. You wonder why people don't do it, because they're embarrassed that they show up to a business thing in an Uber, which is crazy. That making the right financial decisions is embarrassing. And so that affects people in so many ways. If you're the one guy or gal in your group that wants to succeed, your friends group is going to make fun of you and call you a loser because they want to go out and drink or whatever. And you just have to realize that's them. It's not me.
That's right. They're not taking care of your family.
Yep. Yeah.
That's my responsibility.
And just see what happens 10 years later.
Yeah.
Like some people, my uncle, he likes to hang out with his friends every single night, drinks a lot, and then every morning at like 4:30, 5 a.m., he's up working. So some people can handle that. That's probably not you, though.
Yeah. Probably not most of us.
He's probably not him for very much longer. Let's be really honest.
True, but I mean,
catches up.
He's setting himself up. He put in the work.
Well, that's amazing, and it's I think about it. Both of you have gained so much life experience in your different backgrounds and upbringings, and your journey to where you're at now as financial advisors, role models, mentors, board members, serving your community in great capacities. And maybe just as a kind of a wrap up to our discussion here is, what advice would you have to anyone that may be listening to this, whether they're a small business owner, perhaps a fellow chamber member, perhaps someone in your age group? What advice would you have for them to be successful in this year and beyond.
Meet with your advisor, and if you don't like him, call me. And tread carefully. That's what I would advise, for real. Tread carefully, and good luck.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say write down a business/life plan, figure out your top priorities, because I think a lot of people would put family first if they thought about it, but when they look at their actions, you're doing something else. So when you write it down, it's easier to figure out if you're on the right path or not, and then track what you can track. So if you run a business, what are the things that are making you money? The things you can control, like calls, but also the results, to figure out what avenues you should be taking or not, and just getting clarity about what you actually want moving forward, and learning, whatever industry you're in, what phase you're in, right? If you want to be in financial planning and you're in your first 5 years, it's a totally different career than the next 50. And so, but if you don't realize that, you might make a decision that you regret. And there's lots of industries like that. What phase are you in? Is this the really hard phase, or is this the easier phase once you've done the work? And if you don't realize that there is an easier phase, you're just going to bounce around and be stuck in that hard part forever.
Yeah, that's super good.
And do we have a second to clarify something too?
Of course.
I think there's a reason. There's like this discrepancy of people like misunderstanding family over work, and getting frustrated with like, oh, things are impossible and stuff like that. It's when people go to work, they think about their family, and when they get home, they think about work. And so they're not being true. Like, to dumb kind of your point down a little bit, maybe, is like, when you go to work, be at work. Track your numbers. Focus up. Really be at work. And then when you go home, prioritize that time. Be with family. So then, keep your ducks in a row at work. So if things fall apart at the house, you can rush away to go handle that. You're not burdened with something at work. Oh, I can't go pick up the kid with the nose sniffles at school. Let him sit there and take a nap. I've been that kid napping, But it's ultimately, and sometimes that has to happen, but it's be present in what you're doing, And if you're prioritizing work over family.
To end on a positive note, I think
good.
that is happening with the younger generations, because they are looking at the benefits they're getting, the flexibility to handle a family emergency. And when it doesn't work, right, when the company says, no, you have to stay here instead of helping your kid, before the response is, okay, but now it's like, peace, I'm out. I quit.
Yeah.
Like, you clearly don't understand how to run a business.
Yeah, the golden parachutes.
And it's only going to get worse. I'm going to go take care of my family.
The golden handcuffs aren't as tight anymore.
Yeah,
Right. So you see companies that haven't figured that out. They're like, I did 20 interviews and none of them worked out because they were just asking about benefits and flexibility. And am I going to try to call you, 10 p.m. even though I said your work hours end at 5? Like, yep. They get it.
Yeah. It's there's no, and both of you said it numerous times, there's no replacement for hard work, rolling up our sleeves, getting busy, but also being balanced when we do that. And I love how you brought the clarity to that as well. And it's so important because, right now it's a challenging financial time. It has been for a while, and it may still be. But what you're both doing, helping people analyze where they're at now and getting them to a point where they can see light at the end of that tunnel, and it's not a freight train coming at them.
Right.
It's something positive.
And it doesn't have to be balanced all the time, right? When I didn't have kids, it was all work. I was working, 70, 80-hour weeks because I wanted to put in all those hours ahead of time so that I could have the balance later. Yeah. So that's, again, why you need to write out your plan and figure out what phase you're in. Because if you think this is how it's going to be forever, these 80-hour weeks, there's a problem.
Absolutely.
If you're an attorney at a lot of these businesses, it will be that forever. So you got to figure out, is this what I want to do or not?
Find the road to independence.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you both enough. I know we'll have some subsequent and follow-up podcasts because as we're talking and thinking, there's a whole another area that I would love to hear from you. And I know, Ian, you've talked about this before. Good old-fashioned door knocking. Mm-hmm. Launched your career.
I quit when I was 16. I'm done.
Most people hate that stuff. But I'll tell you what, I would love to hear more about that next time. That's what we do periodically here too. But thank you so much for joining this morning. Absolutely. And truly appreciate all the hard work you do for the Mission Viejo Chamber of Commerce, its members, surrounding community, and just the example you're setting for your families and the success you're having.
Right back at you.
Thank you. Glad to have you guys.
Glad to have you. Tune in next week to see him sell me that pen.
Hey.